Hey, what's going on? Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Get Out There podcast. My name is Billy Newman.
And I'm Marina Hansen.
And today we are back with an episode of the podcast. We're going to be talking about some of the things to do when you're getting ready for some winter camping stuff, some winter outdoors travel, some of the things we need to do to get ready for some winter outdoors travel. Shoot, we got some stuff to talk about. Ooh, some watch stuff. Everybody loves watches, right? But we'll have some other stuff to talk about kind of around that. And we've got some trip things to talk about too. Some pretty interesting stuff, like some Native American petroglyphs, some elk hunt stuff that we have to talk about. That had kind of finished up. So a few things we can kind of chat about for a couple of minutes today. But thanks a lot, Marina, for being here and for hanging out in the studio for a few, talking about some outdoor travel stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. So Marina and I are both photographers. We work in Oregon and we are out often trying to take photographs and stuff. So this is sort of an ancillary activity that we just sort of become accustomed to, is understanding the equipment and the procedure of doing outdoor travel and outdoor adventure travel. I like a little bit more specifically kind of looking at that market of how, just how people do different stuff and how people interact with the outdoors and different outdoor activities. And so I want to talk to different people about that sort of stuff too. Like a lot of the podcasts that we'd had with Robert were great, of a lot of the stuff that he talked to us about, like his travel, like on different hunting trips and his time like doing outdoor adventure whitewater rafting on the river. Yeah, all the guide stuff, the fishing stuff. A lot of this stuff is really interesting, really valuable talk. And I really dig hearing about some of those, his voice and like what he had to say about it. And like a lot of the other podcasters and or some of the other outdoor enthusiasts that I've heard, like Steve Ranella. I really appreciated that stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoy him.
Yeah, some of like the hunting and like outdoor thinking stuff about it's just a little bit more complex, a little bit more intricate. And developed about its use. So I really dig like the kind of pop outdoorsness that's been going on for the last 7 years or so. You know what I mean? A little bit. It seems like they'll go hiking is sort of popped as like a thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit more, and especially like with the amount that we see in the expansion and stuff. It seems like that's definitely there. Really pro that. I like that, people from the city going out and doing things outside in nature and really with that process, even each time, even if they're novice at some point, they really do develop a lot of expertise and some stuff pretty quickly. And no doubt is there a lot of people from an urban area that know quite a bit about stuff in the backcountry. You really do see that more than maybe you would expect with what folks often call city slickers.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's a lot more people.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people now that have gone to REI enough times and have ended up sleeping on rocks out in nowhere enough times that they're going to be pretty good. They're going to be like, yeah, I've summited Mount Hood. I've done a backpacking trip for 6 days or whatever it is, and I've learned how to do rock climbing stuff. I bought rope. I've ruined rope. I've got carabiners. I've busted stuff. I've messed up my harness. I've, scraped stuff on rocks, sort of a thing. So people kind of, I think, are getting like a little bit more used to some of this stuff. Some of this outdoor adventure travel stuff. And it seems like it's more accessible with better equipment now. Way better, more technical equipment now. This last decade, the decade before that, sort of since the turn of the millennium, really. You kind of think about it at that time, but you think about some of the equipment people were going out with in the 80s, in the 70s, definitely the 50s, before they produced anything for that. It was just like, there's like mining tools. That's what they went out with. What is that? It's like, you see, never mind. But you just see absurd things back in the day. So we're so blessed to have all the abilities that we have now and all the different types of equipment to keep us safe for one, keep us comfortable on the other, keep us dry, and really like add a lot to the experience of being outside in a practical way. Outside of heavy equipment, heavy gear, it's really just the right tool seems to make a big difference. And especially when you're outside.
Absolutely.
Outside of survival.
Yeah.
Most folks live. That's sort of what we found out. Camping isn't quite surviving like what you thought you would read in Hatchet when you were a kid. Remember reading Hatchet?
Yeah.
Did you read it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and
it's on the book list.
Yeah, you're like, well, this must be like what camping's like. But you get into those survival shows. Like, what are you gonna do if you were on an island? And it's like, If you're lost, that's a big deal. But probably a lot of time, you're out on a trip and you're doing something else, but it's not really the same. So it's interesting when you start thinking about like what are you what are you practically trying to do? Everybody ends up being okay, but how do you kind of stay comfortable and stay steady? How do you figure out how to do that? How do you figure out how to kind of have a grounding over yourself so you can kind of protect yourself and protect other people around you when you're out in the outdoors, and not in like an oversafe way at all. Just it really
just
takes
pretty regular.
Yeah, I was out by a bunch of sheep today. They were just getting rained on all day outside. It hardly fazed them, so we could probably be okay with a little bit more too. It's not too bad. But I was thinking, I went and got an Allen wrench, and I was just unscrewing my toolbox that's in the back of my truck right now. Like one of those back end toolboxes. And so I'm gonna ditch that. I'm gonna sell that off, and I really want to replace that with the canopy. It's that system that I've seen a ton of people do now, which is awesome, and I really dig that idea. But you put the canopy on the truck, and then you put like a raised shelf bed in the truck where it has like 2 pullouts or some kind of lift up thing where you can have access, like some little smuggler's stowaway where you can pack up most of your gear under what would be like the floor of your truck bed. And it's an interesting system. Have you seen a few of those?
Yeah, I've seen a ton of that. I think that sort of like van life truck version setup.
Yeah. I remember Ben to Baja. Do you remember reading that book?
Definitely Ben to Baja.
Yeah, and I remember when they hit Baja and that Toyota truck comes up with them, or maybe it was just the one they had all the time. But they had like the plywood built one in the back where they would like slide out pieces and they had like their chips in there and their Tecates. And it seemed cool. It was like, oh man, I gotta get a truck. I got a truck bed. I gotta get a canopy. I gotta put my sleeping bag up there on a mat. And then slide out drawers and stuff, and you can put all your deals in there. You put your kitchen stuff in there, whatever it is. So I've been seeing that built out more as like a product. Like you can buy a fixture now that goes into a truck bed that's like a machined piece of drawer work.
Cool.
Yeah. It's
awesome.
It's interesting how some of those have been coming together. There's a few of the photographers that I follow in the Northwest that have been getting into that stuff, and it's a cool way to do it. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's interesting. It's an interesting way of kind of dealing with the space, and it's just long enough, right, for us to sleep in.
Yeah,
like
it's just the right size.
Just that size. So yeah, the idea is sleep in the back, drive out somewhere cool, sleep in the back, wake up in your truck, have some gear there, pop out, do some shooting. Get some photographs, and then pop back in and do some more camping.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a great way to deal with not even necessarily like winter weather, but just like we experienced in like some of that Eastern Oregon stuff, like when we were in Imnaha.
Yeah.
And it's just so cold in the high desert at night.
It's so
colder. Cold, and just being inside of a car is a million times better than being in your tent all wrapped up.
Think about that wind exposure we had in the Alvord.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the wind in the Alvord.
That was
so rough.
That was rough. I was thinking that was pretty rough. Yeah, like because you're just getting like barely pelted by a lot of wind and then like sand or dust. It's not even sand. It's not even
it's too fine to be sand.
It's but you notice it though, and it's just like it won't stop. And the only thing you want is just some shelter, and there's none.
Yeah, just a barrier.
There's no rock to hide behind. So it's just those are heaters. They're banging away.
Pretty loud in the background. Home studio.
Yeah, I know. Like old buildings have that sort of stuff too. Those old
that
buildings.
Heater system.
Yeah, have
those accordion.
Oil
filled
heater.
ones,
Yeah, crazy stuff. The steam heater, whatever it is. Yeah, it's cool. But it's fun to have. But yeah, it's so loud and
they
clanky
clink
this time of year.
Pretty bad in the back of our podcast sometimes.
Bam, bam, bam. What were we talking about? Canopies?
We were talking about canopies, yeah. And so there's just like the exposure thing with
so much better.
Nice weather, but in high desert and stuff. Or like right now.
Yeah.
Part of why I really want it right
For
now.
Real.
Is just that we live in the Pacific Northwest and it rains.
It rains so much.
It's rainy season and it's really wet, but we still want to be getting out and going on cool trips and camping because that's the kind of photography we do. We do like Billy's talked about a million times, but we go out and we do outdoor adventure lifestyle type of photography and landscape stuff. So really it's all about getting out to outdoors places.
Yeah.
All year, because it's our job all year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a ton of fun and it's beautiful and really like it's awesome being able to get out because not everybody likes to. So it's cool being a set of the people who are out all year round and being involved.
Really,
like getting out to those spots in the mountains, even though it's snowy.
Yeah.
Or going out and shooting and hiking for the day, even though it's raining.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to commit to that idea when you have a car to come back to.
I totally agree.
A setup car. If it's just like just my CRV or something, like I can kind of crumple in the back, but it's not like real setup.
I know.
Having a cool truck setup though is awesome. And or a van if that's what you've got or are into is super cool and really makes just a huge difference for what you're able to do all year round.
Yeah, I totally see it.
Man, even like urban camping, which we've done plenty of times. It's great if you're on a road trip or just if that's the way it is in the zone that you're at.
Yeah, for real.
It's really great being able to just get to the places that you need to and being able to sleep when you need to.
Dip into the back of the truck and there you are. You're set. It's self-contained. It's great. Yeah, you're ready to go. So I really appreciate it being able to do stuff like that. So that's a little bit of the idea is to work the truck over a little bit and have it set up. So our springtime expeditions are a little bit more set up for ourselves. It'll be really fun though. I really want to get out and explore some stuff in the springtime, but really still a ton of stuff through the winter. Also, there's a lot of photography ideas I have right now. I'm dealing with kind of worn out tires, Marina.
Oh yeah, I know we're in need of some fresh tires.
I've been running 31 10 50 15s of some BF Goodrich all-terrain tires. I love those tires. It's like my favorite set of tires. Yeah. I've had them for like a few years, and so they're starting to run ball a little bit. I guess those do run ball, but they're starting to get down low, definitely. And so I got to swap a couple of those out. But I was trying to think about like traction tire stuff. It's pricey, right? It's like about $150 if you're getting a good price to up to like $170, $180 or so for each tire, just the rubber. And definitely worth it though. It seems like they hold up and they really do what you want them to do.
Yeah, they're great tires, and they last so long. You've had those tires for
a lot of years
long time. Yeah, they were on your other truck before they were on this truck.
I'm a 4Runner back in the day. Yeah, so definitely
they're worth it.
Definitely the thing that seems worth it to me. I gotta put a couple of those on there.
Yeah, I know it's really coming up for us.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, but I want to get set up so that we're kind of ready for some winter travel stuff, so we can jump out, hop on the 126 or the 58, and then head out to some of the stuff up in the Cascades. I really want to try and jump up there, do some snowshoeing this year, maybe for real, and try and take advantage of some of those nicer day, or whatever that is to be a nicer day up in the Cascades. But I want to try and head up to Hoodoo and head up to the Willamette a few more times during the winter season this year.
Yeah, I'd really like to get out there a bunch.
Yeah, we got to do something like that. But I want to try and do some outdoor stuff up there. And I still want to pop up to like Eastern Oregon a bit.
Oh, me too. I'd
some
really
awesome
love
stuff
to.
out there. Last time we were there, that was like I went on that trip out to like Christmas Valley, and I was checking some stuff out, and it was cool. I started doing some research a little bit after I got back, and a little bit of some of the stuff I was understanding when I was out there, of sort of the terrain and how stuff out in Christmas Valley works out in Eastern Oregon. And I was finding out some of the information about the petroglyphs that are out there. Like there's this thing, Picture Rock Pass, that's out in between Summer Lake, Oregon and Silver Lake, Oregon. And it's sort of this ridge, this rock ridge that goes between it. And there's Indian artifacts there that go back, I guess, like 10,000 years. It's an insane amount. One of the earliest human-made things that are remains was found at a site near Fort Rock. I think it was like the Fort Rock Cave. And then there's also another location, the Paisley Cave, that had some of these early Paleolithic peoples. I think it was like a shoe. It was like a reed shoe that was made out of grass or something like that. But it was like a little bag of shoes, something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and but they're like 9,000 years old. It was like Ice Age stuff. Ice Age. Crazy. Yeah. It was the Clovis people that had come down over the land bridge, or whatever that is that studied around that. I think Clovis is the name of a white guy that was a scientist that said he thought it was a group of people that came over the land bridge, and then he named them after himself. They're 12,000 years old. They're long gone, but some of the artifacts are still, I think, kind of run around the Clovis name, like the fluted Clovis point is like a type of Indian arrowhead that kind of has this concave base to it, where it's supposed to sort of fit down into a stick so that it makes like a spear sort of a thing, and then they wrap around it. So if you were to kind of think of it, it's sort of like it's a point on the bottom end. It's sort of like an axe head at the bottom end, and then it slopes up to the fat part, and then it tapers down into an arrowhead point at the top end, if that makes any sense. And then that axe end, that knife end, that would like be driven down into the center of a straight stick, and then wrapped with and glued in with like sinew and whatever leather twine stuff that they would have. It was it's an interesting way of like making a stone tool and like getting it on a stick as a tool and then jabbing at stuff with it. That was the idea. But I guess that's one of the few areas here in Oregon that they'd had found Clovis sites, like these fluted Clovis sites. And so it's kind of interesting. But I was also hearing that this location, Picture Rock Pass, is sort of associated with this. Maybe I'm a little bit doubtful though. But they say that the Picture Rock Pass is really an unknown pictographic date, because it doesn't really match the artwork of the artwork and type and like style implementation of the art, like the tool that would have been used on the rock. It seems like it would have been different between the other pictographs that are in the area.
Oh, sure.
It's just a different look or style, the way that they drew the people and the goats and stuff. You just see it's like a different era kind of a group. And so they talk about it as being like a few different groups and tribes that would have been there over like a 10,000 year period. Like we went to the site that was it was a teepee ring, and it was this ring of rocks that was put up that it wouldn't have been a teepee. I guess it would have been some sort of like canvas hut sort of thing, and the rocks are just like a big wall to block out a pretty brutal high desert wind that's out there in Oregon. Now, apparently back in the day, it was a more lush climate, kind of like what we experience a bit more on this west side of the Cascades. I think there's a lot more water out there in those lake areas.
Oh, right.
So I think that aridness wasn't really there, and maybe some of the trees in that area would have had like a different effect of how cool it was to camp there all year. But it is an interesting area. It would have been like on the high ridge. It was like this kind of rise that came up over a lake area. Now it's dry. There's nothing there. It's just kind of burned out. There's a creek that flows into it and makes it marshy for part of the year, but really it's just a dry lake bed. But you see where this massive body of water once would have stood, when a watershed would have been more able to feed it consistently throughout the year. Same goes a little further south when you get into Summer Lake, which still really it does exist a little bit more significantly. But in the summertime, it can dry out almost completely. You just see like, what is it? Vespers, or is that what it is? Is that what like a dust devil's called?
Oh, I'm actually not sure what they're called other than dust devils.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. What's well, I'll ask you later. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, but you'll see like, these dust devils, these little tornadoes and stuff, or you know what you're talking, or what we're talking about. You see like dust blowing around out there, like a little desert out there. It's crazy. But at the top of that rise, it was this Picture Rock Pass. It was this area. I think it's just off the highway now, and it's this idea, or it's this real kind of dim looking rock, but it has these couple figures on it, and it looks like it's like a hunting party hunting gazelle or not gazelle, but like antelope or deer or whatever would have been out there, elk or something at the time. But it's interesting when you see it and you go like, oh, well, that's totally a person, totally doing something, and they're chasing these critters. Well, that's what they're up to, huh? No way. So it's cool. It's cool getting to see some stuff like that and really pondering like, wow, like this is a guy that walked here and lived here, and his family's walked here from where? From when? How that happened? They were here when? Like when we were, I don't know, like, back in the BC era, it was like ancient Greece or something like that. Would have been a contemporary just to the Klamath Indians. I wouldn't even have gone back to like the ancient Egyptians or something like that. They would have been around for some of this Picture Rock Pass stuff. Like, you imagine what the experience was of some guy like that lived during the time of the pharaohs, and he's just out here in rural Oregon. Oh man, that would have been so weird. What a weird existence. It's just totally alien to what I can really perceive now as the way things are. Strange how stuff like that changes, you know? You don't really have that perspective of the land and the way that stuff is and the way you just kind of take things as it is almost.
Yeah, as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, super fascinating. But it's cool to get out there in areas like the high desert where things are still really exposed. See, similarly, those types of artifacts exist even right here where we are now. Because Indians were everywhere, especially imagine like all the types of things that would be on the East Coast that are probably walked and built right over and have long been disturbed and then now destroyed. But really the precious thing about Eastern Oregon is how arid and rare it is for any people to actually be out in that area. So a tin can left there 15 years ago is still there in that same spot, just being weathered. And similarly, this teepee ring that was put up there 2,500 years ago to whatever it was is still there, just kind of sitting there waiting for the next hunting party to come through and put up a canvas hut on it and hang out by the river during a few hundred years when it's wet. Talk about climate change. Kind of interesting stuff, and interesting to kind of get that kind of perspective of a few thousand years of humans being right where we are, you know, especially West Coasters. We just have this perception that this is all brand new. And it really is. I mean, everything we're doing here, this is like 100 years old or something. But then you think about, you know, ancient Rome or something, what it must be like to live there, where you think, wow, people have been right here doing this, building this for thousands of years. And so it's weird to kind of get that moment for a second with something that's part of the West Coast here.
Yeah, it is really cool.
It's a cool experience. It was fun. And getting to see the teepee rings and the pictographs, that was really cool. And yeah, definitely like a bit of a thing that is kind of interesting. It's I don't know, it's curious, like just having that kind of experience. So it was fun kind of getting to see some stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so cool that you got to do that trip out there and see Picture Rock. I really want to make it out there with you.
We should try and find it. Yeah, I would love to try and go out there and do something like that. I think it'd be really interesting. But we got to use our watches to find it. We've been messing with the Suntu Core watches, and that's like a few generations. Suntu has so many different versions of stuff right now. I really like this one still the most, which is it's like an ABC watch. I think it's an altimeter, barometer, compass watch, if I understand right. And that's like the type of computer that it has on it, of the abilities that it has. So it's got like the chronograph stopwatch stuff on it, and it obviously tells time. It also has a temperature thing on it, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says sunset, sunrise times for the date that it is. I've been digging the type of stuff I can do with it. It's interesting though, as you start kind of moving up on the range of it. I think you go to like the Ambit. That's another Suntu Core watch, and that's like I think it has a heart rate monitor. It's like a fitness watch. It's got the pedometer stuff in it. And I think that'll sync to another device.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I also think at the same time it's still a little bit more like a base watch. It's interesting. There's kind of a like that mid range. There's another one that's like that. The Traverse. That was one that was like sort of like this, but it has like a GPS system in it. And so like you can set a waypoint on your watch and go, and then it'll show you on your watch like this little squiggly trail. That's like where you're walking.
Yeah.
On a map, I guess. Yeah. I don't even know if it's a map. It's probably not. It's just, it looks like a squiggly trail, and it shows you your distance that you've walked. It's interesting, but it's got like a few of those features, and then it'll kick that back out to your Android phone or whatever it is. But it's interesting some of the other stuff that they're doing. Do you remember way back? Do you remember like the Suntu Vector? This is like the first watch I remember really wanting. Or like I was so silly. I was like so like, oh man, I gotta get this super cool watch. Here, let me show it to you up here on the big monitor. We're bouncing it up here. Whoa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I remember this one was a pretty fun one. And I don't really even know what it did or why it would be so cool. But I was like, oh man, that's going to be so cool. I really want that big watch. And then like the one after that was the one that we have now, like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I was going to say it looks like.
Yeah,
this is kind of like the next version of that.
A Finnish company or a Swedish company, right?
I don't.
Oh, Finland. Designed in Finland. by Suntu, made in China. Right on. Well, there you go. Cool like Apple. Design in California, you know, how they put that stuff on it. But yeah, I always like, Doug, like the big watch face, the big like outdoor system and stuff. And it had like a couple cool features on it, like a little, like a countdown timer where it would fill the outside ring up like as the time went around.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was just kind of so interesting.
I like that kind of stuff.
I always dug it too. I was like, oh man, it's so sweet. It looks cool. But it was sweet for like outdoor stuff. It had like a lot of ability with the way more expensive back then than like what we got now.
Thank goodness.
I remember it being way into. Yeah, I remember like looking them up when I had them the what is it, like the guide access to the like promotional store.
Oh yeah, when you're doing photos for that rafting company.
Yeah, and like I remember they had Suntu watches on there, and like you could get a discount. I was like, oh man, maybe I could get one, but it was still like
way too much.
$380. You know, like
with the discount. Oh man.
yeah, it wasn't happening back then. But it's cool. Yeah, I dig throwing one of these watches on. It's fun having something that's a little bit more for like outdoor adventure stuff. But I know really like a lot of the cool shark watch we had before, super effective still. Tide watches are pretty cool. I like them.
Tide watches are cool.
If you're on the ocean or something, I think the Tide watch system is super valuable. That was a cool feature to have on the watch, like kind of knowing some of like the stuff around the tide and just having like keep the tide table tracked. That was cool. And it came in handy a few times. I just wish I knew better how to read it or deal with it, you know. But it was fun to have. And I don't know. It was kind of cool, like figuring it out. But I like the compass and I like the altimeter and barometer stuff a ton. I've been having so much fun with the barometer.
Yeah.
It's been pretty flat for most of the day though. It's been at like 1022 HPA. Is that like millibars? I've been reading it in metric. See, like when I first learned about barometer stuff, I learned how to read it in metric. And not really in standard, but that's like the only unit I know better in metric than in standard. So kind of a funny thing, but so I should probably figure out the standard way to read it too. But I was trying to figure out like the barometric pressure way to read that and stuff. But it was cool. It shows you like a little graph and stuff. It'll also show you a graph if you're like your elevation gain or something. If you're on a hike and or backpacking, you're going up, you can set it to the altimeter and it'll show you your elevation gain as you're moving up.
Yeah, that's a ton of fun.
A really interesting piece. Yeah, I think that's a really cool way to track some of your stuff while you're hiking. But it also has a few little hiccups. We should try and check it out. We'll do a little A and B test. Like we'll synchronize our altimeter, and then we'll like go on a hike or something and go up in elevation, and then we'll track like its change and say like, oh, whoa, you're so much higher up than me, Marina. How'd you get up there? So up. But I remember that like on one of our backpacking trips where, you know, one of the few times where we really made a significant elevation change and it was like, whoa, this is way off.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few of those things where there's a bit of like temperature and pressure that are related. It's one of those things where it can get thrown off. Like if you rise in elevation pretty quickly and the temperature drops, kind of because you're rising in elevation kind of quickly, it throws it off a bit, if I understand right, because it's measuring like this barometric pressure against the temperature and sort of figuring out your altitude based on the pressure change or something. It was it was an interesting way of doing it. I didn't really understand it totally. But yeah, it was this way of calculating your elevation and the elevation change. And it's really pretty accurate to just a couple feet. I was surprised. I'm like, oh, wow, I can like pick up like a little bit up here, a little bit down there. Yeah. So that was kind of a cool, it's a cool feature. It's a cool way to like see some stuff.
It's fun. Cool I liked watching it when we were on our backpacking trip in the Wallowas just a little while back.
Yeah, it was great.
That was fun.
I dug that too. I thought it was really fun to have something like that. And you know, like separation between like some of these smartwatches and stuff now, the thing that I like the most, if it's some kind of piece of technology, or a watch is hardly a piece of technology, but I guess this is a bit of a computer. But the thing that I like is that it's a deadbolt kind of device. It works no matter what. It just like it does.
Yeah, it does
what
the thing that it's
to.
for.
And it sort of like physically operates. I like that part of it. I don't like the touch screen lock sort of a thing. You know, if you feel the feeling of a difference between like if you have an Apple
for something
Watch
that you're wearing.
Yeah, even if an Apple Watch had GPS, I don't know if that's what I would never choose that to be like an outdoors watch. Yeah. One, because it's going to be, dead in a day, or GPS is going to eat it up in an hour, if anything else. So you can't even really go out. So there's all these things that make it like impractical for its, and then like it's not going to have any service or reception to anything. It's not going to be able to do any of the functionality that it would have. So it's so reliant on all these third-party services that exist on servers outside of it that it has to connect to. All that stuff is not really that deadbolt, this is going to work kind of tool that I want for something on my wrist, or something that's like a watch, or a tool for the outdoors where you're going to be removed from all of those kind of things as it is anyway. And you really want those tools you have to be robust when you use them. That seems like something really important. Like the knife I have, or the Leatherman or something like that. I want a good one with me if something happened, not like the, a little flimsy Victorinox Swiss Army knife knockoff. So it's kind of interesting when you think about it a little bit, but I don't know, but cheap digital watches though. That's what I lived on. So you don't need a Suunto, but you don't need an Apple Watch, I guess. But it's fun, man. I'm having a great time. It's a great watch. So a little review of the Suunto, a little bit of talk about barometric pressure and some canopies, some little camping stuff, some TP rings, some Indian history, some petroglyph stuff. My goodness, what else is there that one could talk about on an outdoors podcast called the Get Out There Podcast? I wonder, Marina. We'll find out probably next week when we get back to more episodes and more stories. I want to talk to my friend Robert, who we've done so many episodes with so far before. And I want to talk to him about his recent trip where he went elk hunting up in the Fossil drainage. Sprague South. I think it was Fossil. It's like Seneca or something's out there. A cool area. But yeah, up in the Fossil Seneca 395 area. I guess there's elk out there. I've heard that before from other hunters that have gone out there. So I want to hear from him about his elk trip out there. Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited to hear from him about that too. As I understand it, like the way tags work for different animals, some of them are harder to get. Like elk is one of the ones that's what I hear. Don't really pull as often. So it's really cool you got one this year. 1 in 7 years or something. Yeah, it seems hard. We should do some homework for that one, but that'd be cool to talk about. I'd love to learn a little bit about that and ask him some questions and hear how he's doing. But it'll be fun. So until next time on the Get Out There podcast, I'd like to thank Marina Hansen. So on behalf of Marina, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Get Out There podcast. Talk to you guys next time.